acknowledge thy presence and thy power, O blessed Spirit. In thy divine wisdom now, you erase our mortal limitations, and from thy pure substance of love, bring into manifestation our world, according to thy perfect law.
Situations and unwanted outcomes. Over time, I have learned that my resistance did little more than leave me agitated and unhappy. I have learned to trade resistance for acceptance. Accepting situations as they are does not mean I like what is happening, but that it does mean that I'm willing to be present to it without resistance or struggle. From that place, I am better able to work toward creating better conditions for myself and others. When I practice acceptance, I invite presence of God to inspire and comfort me. I shift my attention from what might feel wrong to that which is always right, the absolute unchanging goodness of God. I am referring to being in need, for I have learned to be content with whatever I have. The Philippians 4:11.
Your perfectly, because always we are God's instrument. Always we are enough. And then there's that ego part of us that tries to tell us something else, right? That we are not enough, that we are not worthy. How could we possibly be when we look back at all the things that we have done while in this human form? So to remind us that we are always God's instrument, that we are always enough, what we like to do is share our statement of being. And that should be, it's so cool. This is new, just in case you didn't know. I mean, this is pretty cool. But it's also printed on your bulletin, which is what we used to have to rely on. So you have two sources. So read the words and feel the words and how they apply to you. God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am an individualized expression of God. I am ever one with that perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am an individualized expression of God. I want us to say that again. And I want you, each one of you, when you say that, to feel it in your heart of hearts. Just that one sentence. I am an individualized expression of God. Those are such powerful words. Such meaningful words. Words that if you can take those to heart, those words will remind you, no matter what situation you're in, there is a presence and power available 24/7. And it can do all things. We can't. We are human beings, temporarily. And living within that humanity is the divinity that always was, now is, and always will be. It is for us to call on that divinity whenever we need to. But we don't just call on it when times are bad. We call on it when times are good, and we say thank you. Because we know that the more we give thanks for what we have, the more we will have for which to give thanks. That's the way the universe works. So with that in mind, we are going to now go into our meditation. And these meditations are meant for us to take this humanity, this physical form in which we live, and do our best to just let it be. Let it be and allow that holiness, that divinity, that one that is all, to come come to the surface, to be the guiding presence, to guide these physical forms through all of the good times and the less than wonderful times. So go to that heart space, that space where you can feel that you are an individualized expression of the one presence and power. From this place of oneness, all things are possible. From this place of oneness, it is not up to us to make something happen, to make something go away, or to make something come to us. This is the place where it is done. We ask and we know it is done. We ask and we know that there is a presence and power that can do all things. All the things we've been trying to do and not been able to accomplish for however long. It's time for us, this human ego part of us, to simply let go. To let go, to release, and know that there is a strength within us beyond anything that we could ever imagine. That presence and power can do all things if we can just get out of the way. So let's just take a moment, reflect on how strong that divine presence is, and allow that presence to fill our being in this moment. And from this place of silence, we give thanks. Our prayers are answered. We give thanks that we are able to let go and allow that divine presence to do for us that which we cannot do for ourselves. Well, it's the first Sunday of Lent. Happy Lent. Did you all get your punchies on Tuesday? Good, we did. We got ours. And I that's one a year. So I allow myself, but it's got to be cream filled. You know, we all have our standards. So I really like what the Daily Word had to say today, because The title of my talk today is Principles and Practices. What's the difference and how can we take the principles that we know and practice them? Because Sunday is when we come and we kind of get rejuvenated and we get reminded of who we really are, that individualized expression of God, so that when situations come up during the week that are not very churchy, that we are able to practice what we talked about on Sunday. Does that make sense? It's kind of like we have one day, one few hours a week where we get some good information, and then we have the rest of the week to remember to use it. Practice. How do athletes get good? Practice. How do musicians get good? They practice. And how do we get good at living happier, more fulfilled, more abundant lives?
Practice.
What did you say?
Practice.
Oh, good idea. All right. So in today's daily word, it says, I practice acceptance and find peace. And I get the biggest kick out of Beverly because she and I had this discussion before when I saw that she was the one reading the daily word, and then she said, gee, I wonder why I got picked for this one. I knew. Because, and we all do this. Not just because Beverly read it doesn't mean it doesn't apply to a whole bunch more people. Because how many of us, when something happens and we don't like it, we go, oh, no, I will have none of that. This is not acceptable. I mean, it's like being on the phone with customer service, except they put you on hold for 20 minutes and you just get to talk to the music that's there or something. We try to resist. We say no. We say no to what we don't want, thinking that when we say no to what we don't want, that we're pushing it away. Guess what? It doesn't work that way. What you resist persists. What you focus on, you bring more to you. It's like when it took me, I was new to unity principles and practices when I was a young mother. I was very new to these principles and practices. And one of the things, for those of you who have raised children or even grandchildren, you know that raising children is a really wonderful learning experience. And kids do a lot of things that we don't want them to do, right? And what is our natural inclination as parents to say, stop that, don't do that. And so, what does the child hear? Oh, playing with that wall plug gets attention by mommy and daddy? Okay, I'll do more of that. Oh yes, I did that. Yeah. My sister and I were probably about, 3, 4, 5 years old. We're 13 months apart. And you know how your parents take you to a store. It was actually a Sears store, and they were applying for a credit card. And you take a 3 and 4-year-old to a store and apply for a credit card. How long is it? That's going to work out really well, right? That was my first experience in one of those little plugs do with bobby pins. Never touched one again. I mean, yeah, as I got older and learned, but we tell our kids no what we don't, because we don't want them to get hurt. We want them to, be well and learn. And it took me years of practice. I'm sure by the time my kids were teenagers, I was still having to stop myself saying, don't be late, and remind myself to say, you are going to be at home by 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or whatever the time was. I was still practicing. I was still learning to focus on what I wanted from my children instead of what I didn't. So instead of don't be late, please remember to be home by 10 o'clock. These are the practices. The principle is the behavior or the thought pattern that we're trying to develop. And the way we develop that thought pattern or that habit is by practicing. How does a basketball player get good at shooting three-pointers? They practice shooting three-pointers. So if we want to get good at dealing with the challenges of life, then when we experience a challenge in life, we pause, because we're not very good at it yet, and we think just for a moment about how we can choose to respond rather than just blurting out the same old stuff we've been doing since we were little kids. So the Daily Word says, trade resistance for acceptance. Accepting situations as they are does not mean that I like what's happening. That is key. Because so often we think, well, I can accept it if it's the way I want it to be. That's not a problem. The problem is, doesn't always go my way. That's the problem. No, because guess what? Things don't always go our way in life, do they? In fact, it seems like more often than not, it goes some other way. However, if we pay attention and we keep our focus on the fact that God is good all the time and that the universe is working in our favor, that presence and power wants only for us what is good and what is best. If we keep our focus on that, then when it goes what we considered wrong, we can say this or something better. This or something better. That didn't work out. Well, then there must be a plan that's even better, that is going to work out for me. And I came across this little mantra that I thought was pretty cool. Because sometimes when things rhyme, they help me stick in my head. I release resistance and allow acceptance to flow. Connected to divine power, I am stronger than I know. Can we try to say that together? I release resistance and allow acceptance to flow. Connected to divine power, I am stronger than I know. I think I'll get that printed up and I'll pass that out. Because I think it's kind of a little rhymey. And so I think rhymey things are easier to remember. So then when we get in a situation where we're tempted to resist and push back and say, no, I don't want that, we can learn, because one of the ways that I still practice, and I learned to practice when I was even a little kid, was flashcards. By repeating something over and over and over and over, it gets in my head. So this is kind of like a little flashcard, a little release and accept flashcard. I release resistance and allow acceptance to flow. connected to divine power. I'm stronger than I know. Pretty easy to remember, so I'll get that printed up and we'll pass those out next week. And I found an article that connects to this, and it was about a small town in Belgium. And for centuries, people in this little town in Belgium had been opening their homes to people who are mentally challenged. And one family shared how their own son was having mental health issues. And they had other people come and live with them over the years and had always had tremendous success in working together and helping these people to live comfortable lives. And now their own son is having these challenges, and it isn't working. He's living at home. They feel like they're doing the same thing that they've done with the other people in similar situations that have lived with them. But with their own son, it's just not working. And here's what the article said. In many cases, the same intense love the families felt for their mentally ill family members, and the same intense desire they had for them to get better, were actually the very factors that seemed to make it difficult for those people to get better. They felt pressured. They felt like they weren't doing the right thing. They felt like their families were unable to accept them just the way they were. Accepting things as it is. Accepting things as they are. Before we can move forward, we have to accept where we are. It's not you can't wave a magic wand and make it disappear. As much as we would like to, be Harry Potter sometimes. We're not. What we resist persists. And how can we feel better if we think that where we are, there's something terribly, terribly wrong with that? It's a process. Life is a process. Growth is a process. Change is a process. We are never at one place to stay there forever. We are given opportunities for growth. And interestingly enough, the most growth-filled opportunities are very often, in fact, typically, the ones that are the most difficult. So when we come across a difficult situation, maybe the most difficult we've ever come across, that's the time that we get to flip the switch and say, oh, I get it. I get it. This is my opportunity to release and accept. It is what it is. I don't like it. However, because I know the principles, I know the principle that what I focus on, I get more of, then I know I don't want to focus on this. So I just got a bad review from my boss. Do I want to focus on what a lousy boss I have, what a lousy company this is to work for, what a lousy job this is anyway? They don't pay me enough, they don't appreciate me. What do you think think that is going to bring. However, if you look at this evaluation and say, wow, didn't expect that, didn't see that coming, it looks like I have some work to do. I just finished ministerial school last year. And we have these really, really important interviews periodically throughout the 4 years of our training. And the first one, I figured I've been in Unity since my 20s. I've been studying like crazy. I'm a very good student. I'm getting straight A's in all my classes. The whole bit. And I go into this interview, and it was terrible. I mean, I did awful. They were asking me these questions, and I was like, I don't know. And, and they kept asking me questions that I didn't have answers for. I was practically in tears. I mean, it was bad. And it was one of those times when I thought, what makes you think you want to be a minister anyway? And so I could have made the choice to say, oh, these people just make it way too hard. I didn't really want to do this in the first place. I need a new career like I need a hole in the head. I could have given myself a lot of the excuses that I've been giving myself before I even entered ministerial schools. However, because I had gotten into the habit of practicing the principles, I decided that this was an opportunity for Anita to learn a little something about Anita. And that even at this mature age, to say the least, there were things that I could learn. And isn't that interesting? Not that I'm a terrible person, but I am not perfect. Sometimes people think the person that's standing up here has somehow got a leg up on other people. No. I got problems just the same as you do. I want to study these stupid things to stay on my head. I look in the mirror when I walk out the door and I look fine, and then I go, and then I'm like, it's all, it's weird. It's weird, people. So I'll be glad to get my hair back, but I don't expect that to happen for maybe towards fall. I might have some, hopefully. Anyway, so we practice the principles. And when we practice the principles, that means when those tough situations come up, when we get evaluated, we go in for an interview, or we go in for a job application, or we go in for an upgrade at work, or just their annual evaluation at work, and we don't get the feedback that we expected, then we have the opportunity to either resist it or to choose to see it as an opportunity to accept it and then use it to grow. Because, when we get less than wonderful news, when we get a bad evaluation, do you really think those people are just out to get us, out to hurt us, out to make us feel bad? I really don't. They're there to help us get better at our jobs, better at relating with other people, being more prepared so that the next time a similar situation comes up, we will be in a better place to handle ourselves in such a way that the outcome, we get to the good part of the outcome and maybe skip some of the less than wonderful in-between parts. Is that making sense to anybody? Has anybody ever made a decision where they went, oh, why did I do that? It just made everything worse. Been there, done that? Yeah? Yeah? So what we do is we practice the principles, and then we're able to look back at those times that we forgot, we messed up, and we can say, well, that didn't work out too well. I think I'd like to maybe miss a few of those bumps in the road. It's like learning to avoid the potholes that start appearing this time of the year. So our practices are based on principles. And the more we practice our principles, the more easily we find that it's able to be accepted. We're able to allow what is happening to be without judging it negatively and resisting against it. There was a high school boy, he was a senior, and he had done tremendously all the way through school. He carried a 4.0 average. He was in the high school band. He was an excellent swimmer, possibility even for the Olympics. And everything he did really well. But this year, it just seemed like everything was slipping away from him. And he didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to handle it. So finally, he went and spoke with his counselor. And when he walked into the room, his counselor looked at him and said, "Hey, Jay, what's going on?" He said, I don't know. It's like all of a sudden, everything I do, nothing seems to work. Everything is so hard. I can't keep up. I don't think I'm good enough to handle all this stuff. All these thoughts keep running through my head, telling me all this stuff, and I hear him saying, oh, ignore that and ignore this, and I can't ignore it. I'm really struggling. So the counselor listened to the boy for a while, and he said, Jason, you're going to hear a lot of people tell you that it's not your fault. You can blame that teacher that gave you a bad grade on that test. Or you can blame that person on your team that didn't pass you the ball, which caused you to miss the shot. Or you can blame that person that got to, I don't know, dive in the pool 2 seconds before you because you had a slippery spot on your platform, whatever it is. You can blame other people, or you can take responsibility. And it sounds to me like you're one step ahead of the game because you're taking responsibility. You're not blaming others. But here's the thing. Blaming yourself doesn't help either. And all the things that you did before that seem so difficult now, they're the same things. The only thing that's changed is how you think about that. So why don't you try this? Just for the next week. You come back and see me next week. And just for this week, whenever you start to get angry and tell yourself that you can't, or you're not good enough, or it's too hard, say, I remember when I could do this with no problem. I have been swimming since I was 5 years old. I can swim. I have been playing sports. I have been marching in this high school band. I've been playing my instrument since I was in 5th grade, and now I'm in 12th grade. I can do all these things because I've done them before. So he did. And then when he came back, he said, wow, that really helped. How did you know how to do that? And his counselor said, let me tell you a story that my father told me when I was a little boy. It is a story about two wolves. And we each have inside of us two wolves. One wolf is filled with faith and love and happiness and hope. The other, fear and anger and resentment and jealousy. And one of these wolves is always going to win the battle. And Jason said, yeah, but how do you know which one's going to win? And the counselor looked at him and said, well, I'm going to tell you the same thing my father told me. The one who's going to win is the one you feed. So you want to feed the good wolf. And the boy looked at him and he said, feed the good wolf. I like that. And that's what we need to do. Instead of feeding the resentment and the anger and the fear and telling ourselves, no, we can't, it's too scary. We feed the love. We feed the belief. We feed the support. That's why we come to Unity East. Because this is a place of community where we know when we're going through some tough times, we can have support. And when we're going through some good times, then we can give that support back to someone whose life touched ours when we needed it the most. When we practice these principles, we make a difference not only in our own lives, we make a difference in every life we touch. Because when people look at you and watch you deal with a problem that they're dealing with too, or they've dealt with in the past, maybe unsuccessfully, and they see you remain calm and strong and confident, you're being watched. You are an example for other people. And if you want, and when someday somebody's going to come up to you and go, all right, I got to ask, how do you do that? How do you come across these really challenging situations and you just seem to get through with no problem? And then it might be your opportunity to say, well, there's this little round church. And so what we do, and I had another really good story to tell you, but it's going to have to wait for another time because, and I have to thank Dave Shales because Dave, we had a board meeting on Wednesday, and when we walked out of the board meeting, there were 4 or 5 books sitting on the counter. And I saw them, and those of you who know me know I'm a bookaholic. You can't help it. It's my one vice that I admit to. But there was a stack of books, and of course I started leafing through the books. The one on top was an Ever Told book, after all. And these were books that our own Dean Shales had in his library. And I came across this book, and I'm looking at it. The title is Making Life Work for You, a Jesus Approach. Follow your path with this amazingly simple and effective product. A powerful way of interacting with God. And I looked at the author, Reverend Ron Scott. That's my mentor minister. He was my mentor during my mentor minister during my internship. He's started multiple churches. He's a wonderful, wonderful human being. So of course I had to pick up this book, and I've been reading it, and it's excellent. And I'll share more with that
more with you about that next week because I went on too much. So, the bottom line is, we have principles. You know some of the principles, you use them. When you use the principles, then you're practicing. The more you practice, the better you get. So, this week, our assignment is to let go, accept, and let God, and we'll just practice. Namaste. So again, because we're switching around the service a little bit, we are going to close now with a prayer, and then together we will say the Lord's Prayer. So let's take a few minutes and relax and go into our quiet space of peace and love and connection with that one presence and power. We know we are individualized expressions of the one presence and power. And we know that there will be things in life that we are unable to handle on our own. And we are coming to realize that we don't have to handle things on our own. We've come to realize that there is a divine power living in, through, and as each one of us. And it is a part of all of these situations and circumstances in which we find ourselves. And we know that whether we are enjoying these circumstances or we're not liking them very much at all, that something can and will come from this situation that is for our highest good. We take the time to remember and practice the principles. Practice the principle of letting go and letting God, knowing that that presence and power can do for us that which we cannot do for ourselves. And we are so grateful for having this knowledge, and we are even more grateful for remembering to use these principles and put them into practice, especially when we're in our most challenging of situations. We are so grateful for what we've learned, what we continue to learn, what we practice, and what we continue to practice and get better at. We are so grateful for the prayer that we have been taught by our Lord Jesus Christ, and we say and sing together the Lord's Prayer.
Thy kingdom
And now it's time for our tithes and offerings. And this is the time we get to give back to the place that gives so much to us. And I'm so grateful for our wonderful choir and for every single person in this congregation, because what you bring to this church is something that no one else can. You are unique, and we need your uniqueness, and we appreciate your uniqueness. So let's remember that as we give, so shall we receive. And let's take our gifts in our hands and read together our blessing. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give joyfully and easily, for the universe is my source, and abundance is my nature. principles. And we will close with our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God